based on the philosophy we are taking.
See, the question is, how okay, any related questions? See, the question is, how can we say something is moral or not when what is moral depends upon the context, cultural context, geography, society, things like that. That is why there are two schools. One is called relativism. Relativists. Relativists believe that the morality is cultural. Morality is, as Russell said it in one book, sin is geographical. Sin is geographical. Bertrand Russell said that. So, when somebody says it depends upon the society, then he is being relativist. Relativist. That's called moral relativism. Okay. But when somebody says that there are certain underlying principles which are universally valid, then he is called absolutist or universalist. Absolutist or universalist. So these are two schools, relativism versus absolutism. Relativism versus absolutism. But what can be a conclusion from this? We are going to inquire that from our inquiry we will learn that it appears some rules are universal and many are relative. Some rules, for example, marrying more than one woman is allowed in Islam, but not allowed in law. So marriage rules, what is considered right and wrong, depends on the religion, society. So many rules are relative. But there are some rules which are absolute. For example, there is no society which says that one can casually murder for no reason. Or one can casually steal. Okay. Murders occur. Murders are sometimes sanctified. But there are procedures. Some tribes believe that you can murder somebody of a rival tribe. And you can eat also if they practice cannibalism. So, there are some universal rules and there are some relative rules. Okay. So there is moral relativism, but to say that everything is relative is not true. Everything is not relative. Because if stealing, suppose if stealing is allowed, how can society survive? Isn't it? So there is something called absolute, but many are relative. Okay. But what is this ethics? Ethics is about investigation of this. I'm making a clear distinction. Ethics is about investigating what may be relative, what may be absolute, and why something is relative, why of it. Okay. And then, is this valid? Critiquing. All this is ethics. Okay. So we are making a clear distinction that ethics is a discipline that inquires into what is morality. And morality has two components, relative component and universal component. Okay. So we need to see whether something is only relative. For example, road safety is constant, but left or right depends on which country you are, isn't it? So like that, there are relative and some absolute. Is this clear?
This is we're deciding whether it is valid or not.
Is an investigation into.
Investigation into something, and we have to decide. Randomly, we have to decide something. So we're deciding that one, whether it is valid or not. We take some philosophers. So one philosopher may say something, and another philosopher may differ that one. So based on that, answers will be different.
Yes, exactly.
So then,
What he is saying is that can there be different answers? Can there be different ways? Yes. There can be many different ways. There is no one way. It's not like physics, of course. It's not like any science. So there are different ways of reasoning, different conclusions are possible.
which way we should take? Any
We will look into that. But as far as the exam is concerned, the examination is supposed to delve into how you are thinking. It is not about the final conclusion. It is supposed to see how you are thinking, the quality of your thinking process. At what level? What are you thinking and how are you explaining? Not that you have to come with a specific conclusion and the examiner should agree, yes. It is not like that.
I guess we have to decide which one is better.
Not necessary. Not necessary. They should really ask if the exam is good, challenging questions where single decision is not possible. But then the examiners themselves are not very clear, so they are asking questions where answers are very obvious. So that's why I don't think they are good questions. Good questions is something that requires debate. But the exam questions don't require debate. They're very obvious. Okay. So we leave the exam, but we'll just focus on this, that there are real dilemmas. Even after choosing to be ethical, it is not really clear what is it that is ethical. It may not be. Okay. But then why should we study this at all? Why should we study this? This is the precise reason is, you have a society 1 following a moral code 1. Okay, code 1. You have society 2 following code 2. Okay. But then people from society are interacting with people from society 2. So what is the code? People from America are doing business with many people with various countries. MNCs. So the world is getting integrated, but they are used to different modes, different moral codes. So why should the code of one society be followed by the members of other society? So why should they follow? Because there is no reason to follow, there is a discussion on how should we relate to each other. Are you following? This is moral relativism is responsible for the growth of the discipline of ethics. You are following in one way, that man is following in another way, but you are interacting now. So what is the way out? So somebody from America, can he bribe here an official to get things done? Here bribing is very usual. So explicit bribing in America is difficult. But here people got used to bribing, and somebody comes. So what is his role? How should he behave? Should he go by this code here and then bribe? Or should he follow the American code and be honest and lose business? So what is it that he should do? So just one second. So if you read books on business ethics, they will explore these are the cases. Because the situation that they are used to is not the situation that they are actually facing. They are trained in a particular code and the situation is so different. And they don't know how to handle. So if there is a discussion on what contributes to the moral code, what is it that makes a person go beyond the specific code, then he will be competent to face the situation. So I can't follow this code and you can't follow that code. So this is the situation. So what should I do? So ethics is supposed to give guidance when old codes are not working. Old codes are breaking down. And then when culture contact situation, C1, C2 interface, okay. If you ask me about the specific situation you are going to face, I am giving my understanding. I expect you to think and need not agree. See, what I notice is that many students who are coming to write the examination, I believe have ideals. I trust. Because many are giving up highly remunerative jobs. Okay, taking 4 years, 5 years, and at the end of it you get nothing except prelims qualified or attempted 4 times, isn't it? So what is it? Why is it that they have been struggling so hard? So when we ask, they say we want to do something for the country or whatever. Definitely non-monetary. We want to be linked to the people. So what I mean to say is that there is some level of idealism. But then, do you see it in the actual bureaucracy? No. So what is happening? So UPSC's point of view is that we are selecting right people, it is you who are spoiling them. We are not responsible. That is one way of looking at it. But another way of looking at it is that, from the discipline of ethics, is that the students have ideals, but they are not competent. Why do we say they are not competent? In my opinion, they have dreams. They want to do that, this. And when they go to the job, they find the situation so complex. They have no clue to how to handle. If they do something, then they immediately get a transfer. If they don't take a bribe, it doesn't matter. People above, people below take. Isn't it? They will have to respect people who are dishonest. They have to respect thugs, salute thugs. So they don't know how to handle. So they think that since we can't implement what we want, so let us be part. And slowly they become. So they have an idea that this is what a honest officer is. Honest officer is uncompromising. Honest officer maintains distance with the politician. Honest officer doesn't strike bargain with a thug. So he has these ideas. They're extremely idealistic. And then the situation is so different. And he doesn't know. He doesn't ask the question, in my opinion, given the situation, what am I supposed to do? What is to be ethical in a situation like this? Given MLA, given MP, given the thug, given the people, given the newspaper, what is my role? Not that I am going to do this and you are not cooperating, so you are all bad people and only I am good. Not like that. So he defines his duty in a very narrow sense. He doesn't see the complexity of the situation. So he is shocked by the reality and yields and compromises. He doesn't say this is how the reality is. How the reality is not there to implement our dreams. But rather, we have to see what the reality is and change our dreams, or how actually we are supposed to do what we think is ideal. So, what I am saying is that if the people are not sufficiently moral, sufficiently ethical, it is because they have some ideals and the situation is different. Collision course. Just one second. Collision course. Whereas a discipline like ethics is to help a person see what is his role given the context. Giving a bribe may be ethical, taking a bribe may be ethical. We don't know. So it is not about following a set of rules, because rules are not working. Then if you are not following any set of rules, how will you say you are ethical? It means you should be guided by certain principles, transcending the rules. And so what are those principles? Then that makes a person competent. So that I would say it's ethical competence. Competence to stick to the ground no matter what the situation is. Another hand, if you have a very clear idea that this is what is ethical is, and the situation is so overwhelming, you yield. I don't think that's right. So I think part of the education should enable the student to be realistic, to understand what the reality is. Education is often about do's and don'ts. Politicians should do this, bureaucrat should do this, bureaucrat shouldn't do this, politician shouldn't. It's not like that. Nobody follows the rules. It's about what they are doing, and given that, what you are expected to do. That kind of training is missing. So, if we are exposed to the ideas of what is ethics, when do we say something is good? If we have a higher principles, then you will be in a position to apply the higher principles across the situations. Otherwise, you will blame the situation and then say, only only if I am like this and others are not cooperating, what can I do? That's a wrong approach. Is my point clear? So that's true about friendship, that's true about love, that's true about family, that's true about international relations. So, if we think morality is the base, okay? So ethics becomes very important because we are revising it, updating it, and elevating the morality to suit the context that it is supposed to face. Please.
Sir, does that mean that absolute morality is very difficult while implementation?
Yes. We have to find out. I don't know what is absolute morality. No, maybe you want to say, is it very difficult to follow the rules? Definitely yes. Just one second. Is it very difficult to follow the rules? Definitely yes. Rules can never be equated with ethics. That much clarity should be there. That much clarity should be there. We'll look into rules. As an administrator, the idea that I should follow the rules doesn't make any sense. So the discipline of ethics is to enable a participant to handle a diverse situation in a right way. But what is the right way is what needs to be discussed. So do you see how important it is?
So we cannot say that all the rules are guided by ethics.
You can't say that. Some are guided by immorality. Some are downright immoral. Some are meant to torture others. So we need to look into that. Laws can be unethical. Why laws can be ethical? Customs can be ethical. What is a custom? Custom is simply a tradition. Okay. Sati was a custom. But some people found out that it was immoral, unethical, now unlawful. But how about the things that are going on now? People read Rajaram Mohan Roy and then say, Rajaram Mohan Roy was modern and now I am also modern. When Rajaram Mohan Roy was proposing those ideas, others around him didn't think like that. When certain families sent their daughters to Brahmo Samaj meetings, the families were boycotted. So the vision of that man was to see what was wrong when the contemporary society felt that it was right. So what are the wrong things that we are doing? That calls for intelligence. Wrong things that we are doing, but are acceptable by everybody. It is like that. So if you are questioning things which are acceptable by everybody, okay, and then what you are questioning now will be accepted after 100 years, then you are like Rajaram Mohan. You won't be like him when you say, yes, I also agree with his ideas. So that is how visionaries are different. Visionaries are not in tune with the public opinion. They have something to differ. And in defying, they were prepared to take any challenge. Personal tragedies. Isn't it? Okay. So custom, morality, ethics, and the relevance of ethics. Why business ethics is becoming an important subject now is not only because they are dishonest and somehow they want to make the executives honest, but also because they do not actually know what is right and what is wrong. Because it's a very chaotic situation. Because things are changing fast. One thing that's true of change is that the rate of change is faster. It is increasingly changing. Pace is increasing. There was social change during Indus time also, but the change was less. But now the pace of change is very, very fast. Whereas the moral code doesn't move fast. So that is why there is a huge gap between the moral code and the what is the right that is required for the situation. So a discipline like ethics is supposed to investigate into this gap and then see, maybe we are following something old, we need to reject. What is the right code given the situation? But to see what is the right code for given the situation, we need to evolve certain principles of what we should call as good. Is it clear? So please give attention to those issues, because there are questions on what is the relevance of ethics, why do we need to know. These are the relevance. Okay. Now, now let us, can I go to Socrates topic? Last question.
If someone asks us if ethics can acquired only be in education.
Education enables. Can ethics be acquired only through education? It's like education is enabling process. Definitely we are going to look at thinkers where we can say, if not for them, we won't think like this. I'm definitely going to cover those thinkers where you can say, if not for these people, I wouldn't have thought. So education enables. Maybe to be good in a cultural sense may not require education, but to be ethically competent, to devise what is good, definitely requires education. You see, you come across basically good people, and you come across people highly educated and dishonest people. Okay, and people who are illiterate but decent, good human beings. But I don't think such decent, good human beings can evolve systems, can say this is how India and Pakistan should behave. Isn't it? So that's more than being decent. So because after all, this is a discipline that people have been thinking for thousands of years. They have never settled issues. So what the discipline does is, we will go to those discussions and then see what is it that we have to learn from them. There is something context specific, there is something beyond the context. So we will focus on what is beyond the context and how is it relevant now. So to be good at ethics in terms of offering solutions definitely require education. But that is not the same thing as being in general a good human being. It is not like that. Okay. Now let us go to certain central propositions of Socrates. Number one, he made a very radical proposal. Now we are discussing Socrates' ideas on ethics. No one does evil voluntarily. It's a very provocative book thing. No one does evil voluntarily. What Socrates means is that if one knows he will not do bad. But what does it mean? It is not no one does evil voluntarily. Socrates thinks some person who is bad is ignorant. And so he is doing bad things. If he is knowledgeable, then he will do good things. But what is the knowledge he is referring to? Knowledge he is referring to here is not about some technical subject. He is referring to the knowledge of oneself. Self-knowledge enables a person to know oneself. To know oneself. And according to Socrates, if one knows oneself, one knows how to be happy. And he thinks bad things make a person unhappy. So, good things bring happiness and bad things bring unhappiness. And if one knows this, he will do good things. So, he is linking goodness with being happy. Goodness as happiness. So how far do you think is sensible? Some people would say we are doing so-called bad things to be happy. Isn't it? Have you come across anybody who says, no, I don't want to be happy? So we come across people, whether they are doing good or bad, sharing a conviction that they want to be happy. Did you ever meet a person who says, I don't want to be happy? Not at all likely. So people who are doing bad things want to be happy, people who are doing good things also want to be happy. So how can Socrates say that if you want to be happy, you will do good things? So that is the position Socrates takes. So why will goodness bring happiness? He means that if you are doing bad things, you won't be happy. He is definitely referring to some kind of internal happiness. Happiness being internal. He is not thinking in terms of certain material benefits. Okay. So Socrates' position is goodness, happiness are related, and to understand that link, one has to be self-knowledgeable. So these three things are linked. Knowledge. 1, 2, 3. This is Socratic position, which Plato and Aristotle agreed. All agreed. All the three Greek thinkers have come to have agreed this basic Socratic position, that goodness and happiness are related, and for one to pursue them, one should have self-knowledge. Okay, so very ancient position, but that is what is said. So if somebody says, I am doing bad things because I want to be happy, Socrates will say, you don't really know true happiness. You are only buying trouble. Only goodness gives happiness. Okay. But then if one says, I have done good things and I found myself unhappy, then Socrates will say, it is because you don't really know what is happiness. It is because you don't inquired into yourself. You have not inquired what really makes you happy and what is superficial. So funny thing about Socrates is that if somebody comes up and says, I have done bad things and I am happy, Socrates will say, you don't know what is true happiness. Okay, but if he says, I can feel, he will say, you don't know yourself. So according to Socrates, one should know oneself, and knowing oneself will let him know what makes him happy, and then that will automatically make him good. So what he proposed is the unity among these three. If a person is happy but dishonest, then Socrates thinks there is something wrong is going. So this is the unity he believes. And then, but anyway, what do you say about this? Equivalent to this is virtue is knowledge. Virtue is knowledge means being good is a matter of knowledge. Virtue is knowledge. Virtue, that is being good, is matter of knowledge. The same thing. Virtue is knowledge. Okay. So tell me, what do you say about this? Is it too naive? Two views, true or too naive or naive? Socrates is talking about three elements: happiness, goodness, and knowing oneself. She is talking about two elements, happiness and knowing oneself. Maybe that is more complicated question. We will look into these three. Hmm.
Sir, how to know oneself is by experimenting both good things and bad things.
Wow, that's another thing. So let us identify the questions. Hmm. Is self-knowledge needed to be happy? And how to be knowledgeable? Yes, of course. Socrates wants us to raise questions and discuss. So what are your answers? How to be knowledgeable is one. Basically you are concentrating on two dimensions, fine. How to be knowledgeable? And is self-knowledge needed to be happy? Self-knowledge. We are talking about self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is not about biology, but about mind. He's talking about psychological aspect.
When we say virtue is knowledge, it means goodness leads to knowledge.
Yes. Goodness, virtue is knowledge means to be good is a matter of being knowledgeable.
So it means that one should be knowledgeable to be good.
Yes, one should be knowledgeable to be good.
So it's this knowledge is virtue.
It is not a glorification of knowledge. Knowledge is a virtue is a different thing. All kinds of knowledge, engineering knowledge gives him competence. Knowledge is a virtue is used in a different context. So let us stick to this. Virtue is knowledge. Knowledge is a virtue that you have heard of, refers to technical competence. Okay, but this is a different thing. So virtue is knowledge. But why not focus on these two questions?
Sir, in the second case of enlightenment,
You can raise questions.
sir, so in the second case,
Mm.
to get self-knowledge, to say what is good, what is bad, I mean, like, we need to experience the both. We need to experience the both. So that it gives a good, I mean, like a good sense of, a good sense to stick on something for permanently. I mean, like to hold it for a long time. So if you are taking one side, then there will be a urge of going to the other side. There will be someone meeting you, or you will just tilt that side. So if you are experiencing the both, and if anybody is pulling you, then you have this to say that it doesn't fit me. And so that's why
You should smoke first to avoid smoking.
yeah, I don't say that exactly, but
I can't agree with that because
I think how knowledgeable requires experimentation. I am giving my answers. That is true. You the,
observation doesn't mean practical experience, right? It just sees and
and educational.
sometimes we may know that we don't like or whatever, but sometimes we may not know. So how do we get knowledge? what Socrates wanted was that it is not that, Socrates didn't think that you should go out to smoke or do bad things to know why you shouldn't do them. Basically, what happens to us, even without our invitation, many things keep happening. We don't have to go out to smoke. There are instances where we have done something similar. We smoked. Then observe. Just observe your reactions, your feelings, relationships. Then you will understand everything. But of course, sometimes you may need to experiment. Actually, you don't need to experiment. You take one decision which you are sure of without yielding to your parents. Then I think you will know a lot of life. Isn't it so? Defy your parents and marry somebody whom you love. Suppose everybody disagrees and yet you marry. And I think life is offered to you. Because no more help from anybody. It's your life. I believe if you break one sacred rule, then life becomes yours. Fully yours. Just break one rule. You don't have to smoke. Just break one rule where you are sure and defy everybody. If you break one rule, you know what happens is that all other rules are automatically broken. A Hindu marrying a Muslim, finished. Nothing works. They don't know which to follow. This group, this side won't approve, that side won't approve. No common festivals, no. Nothing works. Then they'll have to find out how to live now. So that I think is, you can call it experimentation. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe experimentation means you are deliberately doing something to find out. But you don't have to do something to find out. You just do what you like, you will find out automatically. You will find out many things. Just do what your heart says. You don't have to experiment. So Socrates says, unexamined life is not worth living. So examine. Unexamined life is not worth living. But if you want to add our discussion to this, life lived in a routine way is probably not worth examining. If you are living as per all the rules, what is there to examine? Break and examine. And Socrates did both. He broke. And he was examining before. He broke, died, and after that the people started examining their lives. He broke moral code. He was not supposed to ask those questions. He was not supposed to corrupt the youth. He broke the code. He faced the consequences. But why did he break the code in the first place? Because he was observing and found that there was something wrong. But some people may have observed and kept quiet to themselves. But this man was willing to fight, willing to give his life. And it is that thing that inspired Plato and later Aristotle. If Socrates simply lived after compromise, probably he wouldn't have inspired others. So through death, he showed how important it was to live by conviction. In the video, if you watch, I am giving you an assignment. The assignment is identify the statements made by Socrates that you liked. I gave that assignment in the group. Just list. One of the things he said is that you won't believe that it will be disservice to God if I don't talk. It is disservice to God, it seems, if he doesn't talk. That is a conviction. So he didn't discuss on God. He didn't believe in the gods that they were talking about. So, but he was using his terms. It is in that sense. The discussion was not on God at all. God was not such a serious thing. Gods were simply moral codes. So where are we? So that was the conviction he lived by. So, leading life independently and examining. Probably both are linked. I think if you take only unexamined life is not worth living. I think if you are leading in a routine way, probably it may not be worth examining. But you do both. If you do both, a lot of life is opened. So Socrates thinks introspection is the way. Introspection. So through introspection, you will know yourself. And according to Socrates, it will automatically make him good and happy. Socrates is not seeing the possibility of conflict between the two. To some extent he may be right, to some extent he may be missing a conflict. We look into that. But that is his position. That is the position of Plato and later Aristotle also. We will look into that. You try it, will definitely include. So how to be knowledgeable? Examining, experimenting, and taking independent decisions. Okay. You will do good things automatically. Exactly. That is another thing. Another aspect of Socrates is that he is not defining good thing with what the society thinks as moral. That is another thing. Socrates is breaking the code and yet he thinks he is good and also happy. Isn't it? So you can't defeat Socrates because he is defining goodness in one way, happiness in one way, self-knowledge in one way. So goodness also is not the social criteria. So Socrates thought that he was doing good. So when in the court he was asked, how should you be treated? Do you know what he said arrogantly? I think I deserve to be treated. I deserve to be given the treatment that you give to the winner of a race, chariot race. Such an arrogant answer. He should be given a treatment as if he won a race, it seems. So definitely he is not feeling guilty about his actions. He was sure that he was right and others were wrong. He was good and others were not. So one can defy and be good. So what you see in Socrates is defiance, questioning, and the link.
According to Socrates, now, for example, if there is a thief and he is self-knowledgeable that he is very good at stealing things and all, and if he is happy by robbery, then is it defined as genuine happiness?
Socrates, if if a thief says I am happy stealing, Socrates thinks he doesn't know true happiness. Definitely, I don't think you have come across any thief who is both knowledgeable and state with confidence that he is happy. You haven't come across, I don't think any age has come across thieves who will say, my children also will be thieves. Isn't it?
So the knowledgeable part is missing.
Knowledgeable part is missing, but you don't really see the defenders of theft. So this is the unity. This unity is central to Greek thought. We are not doing Thucydides. Thucydides is a different character altogether, confining to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So what is your answer to, is self-knowledge needed to be happy? I think a lot. Self-knowledge is required. That gives the right basis to relate to the other. Self-knowledge is one thing that all the Greek thinkers have emphasized. So introspection is very much. Basically, if you ask me why introspection definitely gives knowledge, but why people don't introspect? My answer is that people don't want to see the negative in them. If you ask me why people are not knowledgeable about themselves, my direct answer is this. They don't want to learn anything negative about themselves. They always want to think that they are positive. There are also schools evolving, think positive. So they don't want to see negative. I think if one is free from the idea that one has to be good in a socially defined way, then one will see lot of things in mind. Lot of thoughts, sex, revenge, hatred, jealousy, all kind of things which are regarded normally as bad. So I think if once we accept these things, we automatically get connected with our mind. And once we know this is what we are doing, when others think we are good, you will also see that others also must be thinking like that. And some people might be acting on them, whereas many people might not be acting. So this enables understanding of the other. You will not be shocked by the negative. You are less likely to call somebody an evil. So self-knowledge enables compassion. So one important implication of Socrates' theory of knowledge and goodness is that if somebody is being bad, according to Socrates, he needs to be educated rather than punished. He needs to be educated rather than punished. Because after all, whatever the bad things, so-called bad things he is doing them out of ignorance. Socrates is not thinking of heaven and hell where bad people will be punished in hell. No. Socrates thinks basically badness is a matter of ignorance. What is the permissible level? It does not mean society should not punish. But it is enough if the society doesn't think of a person as an evil. A person has committed so-called heinous crime. Okay? Even Socrates might say, since you cannot change him, you punish him. But you don't think somehow that he is an evil. Like that. Yes. So, Gandhi was inspired by Socrates. So Gandhi learned a lot from Socrates. Gandhi also wanted to die like Socrates, and God say helped him. It was Gandhi's dream to have a purposive death. And the same thing, Socrates' defiance also is Gandhi's defiance, same thing. Socrates said, I am doing what you think is unlawful, punish me, I am ready. That's what Gandhi did. I am doing what I think is right, and from your perspective it is a sedition, please try me. The same exactly Socrates' position.
Even when he says every person is good.
Every person is good.
By nature.
By nature. And then Gandhi also has the habit of self-introspection. You can read My Experiments with Truth. It's all about self-introspection.
Well, it is about Bhagavathi.
Hmm?
That is the case. He's also, Bhagavathi also purposefully.
So he contributed to the death. No, that was a political thing. He, according to the history, he asked for it, but he didn't want to withdraw the accord on that ground. That was, yes, he didn't want to take it a condition. But then Gandhi was anyway thought that people should die for a cause. And Bhagat Singh was doing only that. So anyway, violence position is different, but I'm looking at self-introspection. Introspection is one, and defense. Defense. Do you know when Gandhi said that what I am doing is sedition and you can punish me, is a completely radical position. Before Gandhi, people like Tilak and extremists, what they were doing is they would do something seditious, but in the court they would argue it was not seditious. They would provide evidence, so they will in fact break the law, but legally they will argue they are not breaking the law. But Gandhi said, I broke the law, that's my duty, please. That was Socrates' position. I will do what I think. And there is a honesty. There is no such honesty in Tilak. He knew he was breaking, but he would argue he was not. It was like a game. But Gandhi changed the nature of the game. I am breaking. This is my duty. You do what you. So he gave a fine. And even then he said, I refuse to pay. Same thing about Socrates. He was also given fine. So kill me and arrest me. It's the same position. So Gandhi translated English work of Socrates' Trail into Gujarati. Gandhi was very much inspired. So definitely Gandhi believed that he was pursuing his happiness. There is no doubt about it. So in him there is a unity between goodness and happiness. You have a concept called integrity. Integrity is what Socrates is referring to. And Gandhi also is a man of integrity. This is what integrity means. Integrity is connections. A man with integrity is happy. And he is good. And he is good. There is a unity. Socrates thinks that unity should be there. If you ask Socrates, why are you unhappy? He will say, I am not unhappy. In fact, I mentioned in the book, his followers were crying. So Plato started crying, somebody started crying loudly, and then Socrates got irritated. And they said, you please go. Let me die in peace. And then they cooled down. So Socrates didn't think he was suffering.
Those who have clarity, they don't think so.
Exactly. Socrates had the clarity.
The terrorists don't.
Terrorists also may have. Terrorist is a word that you are calling somebody whom you don't like. Socrates and terrorists were doing similar thing, except the terrorist is involved in violence and Socrates is not. But then the people felt Socrates is more dangerous because his followers were involved in violence only.
But again, the concept of self-knowledge applies to terrorists. They are not self.
Maybe we can't take all terrorists. We will have to go by which. Some people may have doing for livelihood. Some people is simply brainwashed and they don't know what they are doing. Some people may have a conviction that they are right. We don't know. But so leaving that, we'll confine. See, these are the people who had, Socrates had the clarity and happy. So such lack of conflict is what integrity is. So all Greek thinkers, Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, focused and believed in integrity. Integrity is not about following certain rules. Integrity is about absence of conflict within. Integrity means integration. Parts of a person are connected, related, interlinked. No, if he is undergoing a conflict, then that's not integrity. Socrates didn't. He was so sure. Gandhi didn't. He was so sure. So, if there is a conflict, that what am I doing, society is saying like this, and I am different, suffering, that's not integrity. Please, when the question is on integrity, you include these thinkers. What is integrity? Integrity is not simply about honesty. Neither honesty is about following rules. Please leave those concepts. Ethics is to define what is honesty, what is integrity. So integrity means lack of conflict. So what is the power of integrity? Power of integrity is that it makes unified action possible. Conflict-free action. He doesn't say, okay, I'm doing this thing, but I'm unhappy. Have you come across people who say, see, I'm honest. See, look at those people, my colleagues who took a lot of money and they have these many lands, their children are like this, they have cars like this. They are constantly thinking about the people who made money. So what is it that they are secretly thinking of? They regret being honest. Isn't it? They envy the people who made money and secretly wish after death those people will be punished and these people will go to heaven and watch Ramband Bros. That is lack of integrity. Whereas a man with integrity will think that they are doing like this, they don't know what is to be truly happy. So when there is, what is the link between integrity and corruption? When there is no integrity, it gives scope for temptation and corruption. No integrity gives rise to, tempts, bribe, or say illegal money. That is the connection between integrity and corruption. A man without integrity is a man in conflict, has many temptations. Okay, so all three to Socrates are related: knowledge, goodness, and happiness. If he is only good and not happy, he will say he doesn't know himself. But in all this, you should remember, Socrates is not equating goodness with any rules. That's very, very important. So Socrates is defining knowledge in a specific way, defining goodness in a specific way, happiness in a specific way.
Sir, when we say we need to have self-knowledge to be happy, right, sir? So there is a case where people without being completely in knowledge, even they are happy, like mad people basically. They don't have any sense of what's happening around them, but they are happy, right, sir?
Thank you.
To be happy, you need to have complete self-awareness of what's happening and how you are. Or you need to have zero awareness of what's happening. Then you are in state of happiness, right, sir?
So he is into 0-1 theory. You should be totally ignorant or you should be totally knowledgeable. Okay, you can discuss that, but I want to say a few things about knowledge and happiness. Surely you come across people who are very, very happy and who are ignorant of themselves. That's a day-to-day experience. But my observation is that people are happy when things are going in their favor. I would say that is a very shallow happiness. When things don't go, when small miscalculation, first rank hoped, third rank. Six. so whatever. So small love failure, exam failure, many things. So if any calculation is upset, then people without knowledge are likely to be very unhappy and collapse. So I don't think Socrates is equating happiness with the happiness you see all around on a New Year day. They want to enjoy life. So I don't think so. Socrates' style of happiness is drinking and dancing. It is about a kind of an inner state which gives contentment even in adverse situations. And I don't think to be happy in an adverse situation can be had when a person is ignorant. So I want you to think whether a lot of happiness that the people experience can really be sustained in a different situation. Often it is not. So usually people follow in a track like this, strictly rules, the minor variation. So they will not cross, so happiness, unhappiness here. But you know, even if you choose to go along the path, safety is not guaranteed. So certain accidents happen. I'm talking about life incidents. So they collapse. So that's how Socrates thought. So definitely self-knowledge plays a very important role to be able to face diverse situations and definitely to cross the road or to choose a jungle. Self-knowledge is definitely required if you are going this side, there is no doubt. Sometimes you may choose to go, sometimes you may be pushed. Suddenly diagnosed with terminal cancer, you are pushed. So certain life situations can check you out of the road. Or you may take a decision in which you are anyway pushed. So, knowledge is required. No, conscience is different. Self-knowledge is about everything. Conscience is about right, wrong. We look into that later. Next, let us cover Plato and Aristotle. Plato is a disciple of Socrates, and like Socrates, he believed in unity. Unity of goodness, being happiness, and then knowledge. He believed in this. But Plato gave some details of self-knowledge. Details. We are just looking at Plato is a political thinker. Socrates is also a political thinker. We are just looking at ethical part of them. Ethical part. Plato said each person has three components in him. There is a physical need, psychological, and reason. First thing is called body, second thing is called spirit, third is called reason. So, a person's self-knowledge should enable him to know what he is. To know what he is. And then, depending on what he is, he should plan his life. That is, if he is doing something that is in tune with his nature, he will be happy. It means Plato is adding details. Three components. One has to find out what is of importance to us in the contemporary age. May not be about these components, body, appetite, spirit, and reason. But the main point is, what is your nature? And what are you doing with your life? If what you are doing with your life is in tune with your nature, you will be happy. And being happy will automatically be good. But if you are doing something that it is not in tune with nature, you will be unhappy. And once you are unhappy, you will do bad things. Tell me, is there a truth in this? One has to find out. We will look into that. First, is the statement true? So your nature, your job, your work, this gives to make you happy, and then good. Tell me, is this proposition reasonable? So what is Plato's answer to the question, why is man corrupt? Basically, he is unhappy. He is unhappy with what he is doing. Tune to nature. For example, how many of you wanted to pursue career in film? Any maybe. Journalism. How many of you were forced into engineering for the sin of solving some algebra some distant time? Isn't it? We didn't know that such an innocent thing that we did will push us into engineering, and 4 years, 5 years. The torture. Isn't it? So we are forced. When we are forced, we are basically unhappy people. When we are unhappy, we do all kinds of things. If we are essentially happy, do you know, we will be contented. For example, why people may require so much of money? Basically to show. See, we are big, we are like that, like this. Why should they show to others? Because they are not happy with themselves. Since they don't think high of themselves, they want others to think of them. Suppose you had nice dinner. Will you go about telling everybody, I had nice dinner, I had nice dinner? No. You don't need others' approval. You enjoyed it. But when you do something which you don't like, you need everybody's approval. Don't you see, this entire whole process, basically you are pushed. Do that, do this, do this. Why are you pushed? Because parents were pushed long ago. So they were pushed. They couldn't prove themselves. So now they want to prove themselves through you. You are also pushed. It is one generation taking revenge on the next generation. So people are coming out wounded. Have you seen how your mind works when you are reading? It's very difficult to concentrate. We are constantly thinking about when will this be over, when you will be a topper. Because the entire process is painful. When you are watching a movie, will you think, when is the movie going to be over? Read 2 pages count, 3 pages count. So, how is happiness possible? So we don't really see why we should do good things to the society which has done so much bad to us. Isn't it? This is an enormously violent society. A friend of mine used to call Ramaya the worst terrorist that Andhra Pradesh produced. IIT Ramaya. Morning at 4 o'clock to get up, work. He made people work from 11th, but then following his tradition, people started making children work, 8th class, 7th class. So how can happy childhood be possible? All pushed. So people are coming out with so much of pain. Because that is not their nature. They want to play, they want to do all kinds of things. They also want to study. But studying is not everything. So what he is saying is that it is not about physical, psychological reason. Definitely, it's not without a point. Definitely, take for example civil services. I don't think everybody is suited. Some may be suited for research work. Some are more intelligent, but they don't see that they are good for research work. They want to cram prelims, write and fail, and in the end they are bound to have a very poor opinion of themselves. Though most probably they are more qualified, more intelligent, much more intelligent than the exam requires. So basically, so many people are pushed, tortured, and so you are sending an army of people who are out to take revenge. We are all part of that army. So if you are looking at body appetite, spirit, reason, they're not so important. Definitely it makes some sense. Some people are sports oriented, some people are psychological, some people are definitely the extent of reason they use are different. But what he is saying is that people are different. But they are forced to do something which their nature doesn't suggest. That creates sorrow. And out of sorrow, all bad things flow. Need for external reward, need for approval, need for money, all kinds of things. Isn't it? So Plato thinks in a recruiting system, for example, state. If a state has to recruit, he divides into classes. He proposes guardian class. Guardians should be reason oriented. And then the soldiers, military class, producers, military psychological, producers physical, like this. So he thinks of classes, and classes being getting the recruitment based on their predisposition. But in his scheme of things, he gives maximum importance to reason. So, basically missing the connection between nature, one's own nature, and job. That is the primary source of disconnect. And that disconnect is playing havoc. Isn't this true? So if people are allowed to pursue what they want to pursue, and if they are happy, then they will contribute to a happy society, and happy society will automatically be a good society. Okay. So to the question, how does one know? I think it is here, introspection. Same thing that we discussed. I don't think the point, okay, I mean, it's not an insignificant question. some people have the clarity of what to become, but prevented from becoming, and some people don't have the clarity. That's true. But then you will have to look into why some people may not have the clarity. Probably at a very early stage they have come to compromise. Finally they have come to say, I don't know, I go by what my parents say. So usually education is not trained, is not tuned to help the student to discover what one wants. Definitely there are differences. Definitely there are differences. So education should be such that a student should learn how he is different and where he is more fit and how he should pursue. So, in a way, what he is pointing out is that source of corruption is lack of harmony. What is another word for harmony? Integrity. So, lack of harmony, lack of integrity, this is leading to enormous sorrow. And sorrow is the source of badness. Same thing. But it is simply Plato. What Plato did was, Plato gave details of self-knowledge. And Plato said many other things about the state which we are not covering. You can go through the book. We're just referring to the ethical part. Plato is a political thinker. He said about nature of the state and many other things. Democracy. Maybe we'll do it at a later time. But this is the theme. So he is not disagreeing with Socrates at all. So he is equating goodness with happiness and happiness with harmony and harmony coming from self-knowledge. Okay. Next, Aristotle. Aristotle also, in this context, proposes the same thing, but in a more elaborately. He says, he doesn't give those three components of body, appetite, or spirit and reason. He says, there is something like an essence in man. There is something called essence in man. And this essence should be realized. And this essence, this realization will make a person to be happy and good. This is called essentialist argument. There is an essence in man. Okay. So, but look at, I mean, it may appear that, okay, there is an essence and it should be realized, but look at education system now. Aristotle will think of a different education system. For example, one way of looking at education system is that people are above, below, it's like this, and there is an education system. Ideally, people may think that education should create equal opportunities, and it should enable even this person to go to the top. So let me explain. People have an idea of what is a good education system. Good education system is there are inequalities like this, rich people, poor people like this. Education should create equal opportunities, and then using equal opportunities, anybody should be able to reach to the top. Okay. Will Aristotle agree with this? Will Aristotle say anybody should be able to reach to the top? Who? Who aspires to reach? Okay, but should he aspire to the, should everybody aspire to the top? Not. Isn't it? Everybody should not aspire to go to the top. In fact, Aristotle might not think in terms of top and bottom. He will think of positions like this. Okay. And then, what is one's nature? And then go. So like this. Education should help this kind of fitness. It is not that anybody can reach top and everybody should have an opportunity to reach the top. It is not top versus or bottom. It is about what is one's nature. Even Aristotle thought that some people might be better fit as slaves. That is his opinion. But he didn't say that the slaves at that time were psychologically predisposed to be slaves. He was only making a point that the people are different. Some people would like to follow, some people would like to lead, some people would do research, whatever. So, he is saying that there is something like an essence and there should be matching of this essence, and that creates happiness of an individual, and happy individuals contribute to happy and good society.
When they say that every individual is different.
Every
individual is different.
Yes.
But Aristotle says every individual has an essence. But say if we have people of similar nature, not exactly similar nature,
Same pose.
then inevitably there will be a competition of top and bottom.
Exactly. That's true. Aristotle probably thinking that people are really completely different. Maybe they are not so different. There may be competition. But definitely, there may be competition for the resources, ranks and things like that. But effort should be made to see what is the essence. Isn't it? So he defined the political system as good, which matches people's work with their nature. And a political system should promote that goodness. So both Plato and Aristotle are thinking in terms of how nature, human nature, should fit in with what one is doing. And if individuals are happy, the society is happy. And in any state intervention in any recruitment system, when you are thinking of the state, then the state should think of such a kind of a match. So they did not deviate from Socrates' original position. They just gave details in this aspect.
Again, there is one question. When these Greek philosophers are saying that when individuals are happy, the society is happy.
Yes.
They are referring to all individuals or is it equalitarian that maximum individuals are happy?
No, they are not talking about maximum. They are thinking of all. All. They didn't work on these calculations like maximum, minimum. No. So basically, they didn't make separation of goodness and happiness. Goodness, happiness, human nature, self-knowledge. These are essential things. So if the society is corrupt as it is now, it is because people don't know themselves and forced to do things which they don't like. So enormous violence is being created. Out of this violence, corruption is a symptom. Is there a truth in that or not? There is a truth at the society level. I think there is a truth in every individual level. So what we call education is enormous systematic torture.
This might be the sense in which he might have filled in an exile, right? So a sense of a man, he might have repeatedly doing saying that you are here to rule. So
Exactly.
he might mainly push for his
That's true. What we are doing is we are set certain goals and pushing everybody towards that. So we have created a hierarchy and no matter what one's nature is pushing. That is what is happening. So what kind of a political system that we create, what kind of a system that we create so that we will not push children into this is an issue. So happy society and good society also requires appropriate structures. The structure is wrong. A friend used to say that in a good society there is a president post. Then if many people will say, no, I don't want. I am happy being myself. Only very few people would say, yes, I don't mind being a president. Okay. So, enormous pain is created, competition is created. People don't have time nor even the courage to look into themselves because it is frightening to look into. Because what we are doing and what we are has no resemblance, no relationship. So run. If there is any space, go to a movie. Don't look into yourself because it's very dangerous. Occupy. Never be yourself. If you are forced to be alone, you have a cell phone. Run. So, because so we are a danger to ourselves. So enormous violence is being created. So this corruption is a result of this violence. So this violence is coming from inappropriate structures. If we are pushing people towards a particular end, we have created an end like that. Actually, this is becoming more now. This much of stress was not there, say 10, 15, 20 years ago. People have accepted their positions. What so-called democracy brought was that you can become anything. Okay, so pushing became more. Not that the society was good at one time. It had its problems. But this much of ambition was not there. Actually, in any class, some people would study and some people don't study. That's all. They have chosen not to study. Some have chosen to study. Not everybody is pressurized to study. So it is an unleashing of aggression. So definitely this faulty education, please.
Sir, if there is a kind of social organization based on as per this idea of essence, would that be synonymous to the idea of Varna system?
Definitely not, because in Varna system it is fixed.
There is an caste
There will be hierarchy. There will be different jobs. We don't know. But caste system is different. Caste system is exploitative. It's exploitative. Whose nature is willing, who will involve willingness to be harassed, exploited? No. So definitely it will be less hierarchical, less rigid, and a happier society. So the Greek thinkers are looking at the fundamental aspects of what is going wrong. So more serious issues. It is not about transparency, okay, vigilance, Lokpal, no. It is at the very heart of the production of the society.
Just carrying this question forward. Probably Varna system without any hierarchy.
It won't be called a Varna system then. Hierarchy is what is essential to Varna system.
Varna system got hierarchy with the evolution. The initial Varna system was based
We
on
need
occupation.
we need to look into that. That's about what we look in. That's a different story.
Is essence in the mind virtually same as the ability of man by other?
No, ability may be something. Essence is something that you feel realized. Ability is about your competence. For example, you may become a good sports person, but you may not. Okay. You may want to do something, but your ability may not match. It may match and it may not match. But if your essence is that, definitely you are more likely to have ability, and with little training your ability may have been enhanced. But definitely two different things. Essence realization is the source of happiness, whereas ability actualization is not. Maybe that's what we can say. You are trying to maximize the ability through exams, but not essence. There is so much of focus on ability and not essence. Okay. So please go through these two chapters from the book, go through these sheets, and you can also watch those videos on these three: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. I posted a link because I just go by the class. I may have thought of saying something, but you make me do something else. So it's more spontaneous. So just go through the questions and go through those videos and read the book. So tomorrow we have class on writing. So tomorrow and day after we have classes on writing. Okay. So with this, Greek thinkers is over because we are not covering Thucydides. So whatever Thucydides had to say, we can cover under Hobbes. We are reducing the role of thinkers, technicality cut, and more general discussion, so that the main aim is to carry these thinkers to the other parts of the examination. Okay. So tomorrow we will meet for a class on writing. So meanwhile, revise these thinkers. Okay.